Have you ever been mad at yourself like 20 minutes ago? You're mad at yourself for just like a poor decision 20 minutes earlier. That's where I am right now.
And now this life decision is
I'll pick that up later.
This bad decision is documented now for you.
So I was in a shirt that I'm like, this is going to be a bad idea, so I was like, I'm going to run into the loft. They've got a big sale. I'm going to change shirts and it'll be so great. And then it was like something took over my brain and I got a horizontally striped shirt.
It's okay.
And like, I'm just so mad that we're still doing YouTube.
I'm telling you, I don't even advertise YouTube. We get 40 to 50 views on YouTube each week. I don't even advertise it. So,
well, I can't watch this on YouTube. It is too stressful for me.
Wow.
Yeah,
because
I'm
I'm
not going to
always
be watching
like,
this.
making crazy faces and
a lot of people consume their content there. So.
And I do a lot of adjusting, and somehow that ends up on the camera.
You would be amazed at how much I cut away from you so that
hair touching.
to them,
I'm like
so that
trying not
you're
to touch
hiding
my hair.
your adjustments.
You're hiding.
There are adjustments I see that no one else does.
You're like, oopsie, that's pan over the camera.
That was not helpful.
I mean,
at all. Like that does not help.
Before we started one day, this is how you start a show at time. You were like, "Hey, everybody, welcome to the Almost Amazing." I was like, Jennifer, what are you doing?
That's awesome.
We're literally, it's the first
so
start of the
funny.
show, and you're like
just
scratching your tummy.
Stroking my belly.
I was like,
I didn't
oh,
realize you
geez.
guys were filming now.
We've done like 6 episodes now. They want to get us to the point where we're filming everything we record. So it's kind of like this is almost practice for the rest of the church, so that when we do other
Guinea
things, like
pig.
And I
You know,
still can't remember that
it's
we're
low pressure.
filming. Like it took me 60 shows to remember the name of our
We're
show.
over there.
and now
So-
it's officially changed.
Every time I'm coming, I'm like, oh no, he's gonna video us. And then I'm like, Justin, are you gonna video this? And he's like, yes, Jennifer, we video everything we do now.
Yeah.
And so I'll have to go to the car.
good
I'll
to
have
know.
to see if there's something I can dig
Now I
through.
will
Yeah.
never show up. in
You
the
need to
workout
just get a
clothes.
wardrobe of 4 shirts that you like.
Keep them
Leave
here.
them here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Smart.
always have a backup.
Is that
Right.
what you do?
No, I don't really care.
Black shirt.
I just wear a
Like,
t-shirt.
You're like
Black
Mark
shirts.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Just wear the same thing
Yeah.
most
No, I
of the
don't think
time.
there's- So do you know the name of the show now?
I do. So we can go ahead and get started.
Did you see us on, it's changed on the podcast app too. Like it's
Oh,
our
really?
faces. Have you seen it?
No.
It's our faces.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's great.
As long as you're not
That'll be
scratching
more-
your belly.
I really like that sloshing glass thing.
Yeah.
I cannot even look at myself on the monitor because all I see are big white stripes.
No.
That's all I see.
You can't even tell they're white.
Sydney, you're so nice. You're
I
yeah.
can't see myself, so it's a
Good
good thing. I'm just looking at the
gravy.
honeycomb.
I know. So I am really excited about our show today because, like I promised, we have our first guest ever back to visit with us.
Yeah, that's the real reason Sydney's here. Sydney apparently was, she was hoping. Yeah, you said it on
you
the
promise
show
that to?
last week. everyone listening. She said next week Sydney's going to be. She even mentioned Tim. She
Maybe
said
false.
next
No,
week Sydney's going to be on the show. So
I tried to throw it off to Tim, like, hey, how's the
Wouldn't
other
work.
Yeager this time? I
That's why
already
she was
did
so
this.
adamant about Sydney being here because she'd already promised it.
Well,
So-
when we were
hilarious.
listening to all of the things that happened on the Ecuador mission trip, I was like, we have to get Tim on the show. He's got to talk about what's going on this summer. And I need to they're married. Yes, let's get them both in here. And so it's worked out perfectly to have you guys here.
Here we are.
So, hey, everybody, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast for the first time ever.
First time.
This is really exciting.
Mhm.
And we are in for a great show.
Yes. It's gonna be
Just
great.
like I promised.
Yep.
We're going to have a returning person here today.
Yep.
Who was on our first episode.
She was so kind to come that first time, and she's even more kind to return after we hopefully it's an improved experience.
Yes. And we have dragged along her husband.
Yes.
And
Before we get to
so-
that, Jennifer, how are you? What's new in your life? How are you doing?
I'm good. How am I and what is new in my life?
Yep.
That is a great question that I want to spend a lot more time on. But first, I have to ask you, you have a sick child.
I do.
How are they doing?
She continues to throw up. She threw up 4 times 2 nights ago. And then it's one of those things where you make it 12 hours and you're like, oh, I think we're through this. I think it was just that one thing. And then she goes to sleep and she throws up again. You're like, ugh. So like, it's
Like no more going to sleep.
Yes, it's just one of those things. But the funny thing is like the first day she was sick, she's obviously staying home. And but my son, he cannot fathom why she gets to stay home from school and he doesn't. I mean,
It does not seem fair.
No less than 15 times. So she threw up 4 times. And so she's kind of like laying on the couch and we're getting ready for school to take him. And he's asked me literally no less than 15 times why he can't stay home as well and watch TV. And I said, did you throw up 4 times last night? He goes, no. I was like, then you don't get to stay at home.
Then get started.
I was like, but with our luck, you're probably going to catch this. So you're going to be throwing up in a day or two because the stomach virus just kind of goes through our house. But it was just so funny how he could not comprehend the situation. I was like, no, you don't get to stay home. Like, no, this is not for you. Like,
You don't have any symptoms, do you? Because I realized
I'm really close to you. And we did share that soda.
I cannot be sick this
We
week.
did share soda.
I cannot
I
be
can't be
sick.
either. It's Taylor Swift week.
Are you going?
No, my wife is.
I am going.
So my wife is going to Taylor Swift. She invited some friends in, and some friends are staying at our house. And our house is 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. And I said, Kristen, did you really think this through when you invited friends to stay? She goes, no. So I'm taking the kids to the beach, actually. So I solo will be taking our children to Galveston. We rented a condo for 2 nights. So while
Whoa.
my wife is bored at home by herself
Wow.
and going to see Taylor Swift, which is going to be so lame, I'm going to be
Good
having
night.
so much fun with my 2 children at the beach alone.
You're such a good dad.
I'm a great dad, and they probably don't even remember it. Like, if they complain at all, I'm going to throw a brick through a window. It's like, do you understand? I would have never.
I brought you to the beach.
This would have never happened in my
myself.
childhood. I never would have been at the beach for a weekend in my childhood. So I'm nervous, but I'm excited for my wife to have a weekend with her friends and a quiet couple of days. Like, we're literally going Friday afternoon because kids are out of school. And then we're not coming back till Sunday morning before church. Like, we're going straight from the beach to church. And then so my wife's not going to be at church on Sunday because Taylor Swift is Saturday night. And so she can sleep in.
You cannot say that on the show.
Why can't I?
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Dude, you would see. Oh, you should see like student ministry attendance the day after prom. And so in a
It's
small
insane.
town, everybody had the same proms. I would bribe children to come to church the next day because prom would like wipe out our student ministry. So here's what's the bribe. I said, if on prom weekend you come to church in your prom gear, you will get $50 off your mission trip or your camp or
Oh,
whatever.
so they would totally come.
And so they would come in their prom get-ups the day after prom.
That's clever. That's a really good idea.
All that to say, when you have a big Saturday night, I don't think there's anything wrong with sleeping in on Sunday. God would want you
Yes.
to rest, especially if you're falling asleep at church anyway. It's like, what good
Right.
is it for you to be there? But so she's going to Taylor Swift. You're also going to Taylor Swift. Are you?
I am.
Who are you going with?
I'm taking Olivia, and my sister's coming into town. She's bringing her 2 daughters, and the 5 of us are going.
Whoa.
And I'm really excited. And so I've been like figuring out what to wear to this concert. I'm
People are going all in on costumes for this concert.
all in.
Like, it's a thing.
It's like cosplay.
Yes.
It's crazy because every album is an era.
Yeah.
They call it an era.
Yeah.
And I believe there are like 9 eras.
Yes.
And everyone's dressing as
Yeah.
one of the eras.
Yep.
So you kind of have to like name your theme.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to be simple because I'm a little old lady, and I can't show up in a big, bright, blingy outfit
like
because
disco ball style. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like for me, I just want to be kind of like inconspicuous with a little bit of bling and nothing
yes.
too crazy.
Yeah, I think there's like 100,000 people there. Several will just be in a nice shirt.
No
and,
one's
like,
going to be worried about what I'm wearing.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I did buy a shirt. It was just like, I heart Taylor Swift.
There you go.
And I tried it on. No, it was directly in the center of my belly. It looked like it was written by a 4th grader just drawing
Yes.
on their belly,
Okay.
I heart TS.
Okay, so,
And my sister said it, and not my sister, my daughter said, if you wear that, like I will not.
I will not be with you.
You cannot wear that.
I can't wear this.
So then I'm stuck because it's too late to order anything.
Yeah.
It's too late to make anything.
Yep.
I'm not going to go buy some huge thing.
Yep.
So I literally got a basic t-shirt from Target. I'm having my team help me decorate it
It'll be great.
with glitter.
No one cares. I will say this. I get Taylor Swift TikTok for some reason. I guess they assume I'm a 35-year-old woman for some reason,
Mhm.
but they do send me a lot of Taylor Swift and stuff. And so we're getting all these costumes. People are like, oh, the best era. And someone showed a video of some guy sitting in the crowd. And did you know that Taylor Swift has an honorary like doctorate from NYU or something? Like she did a speech there and she had the full like regalia and stuff. And so this guy came in the full like NYU regalia, I guess because he graduated from it too. So his era was like Taylor Swift honorary doctorate.
That's actually really clever.
I thought it was really funny.
That's really clever.
Instead of like Red or Reputation or whatever it may be, like
Well, we're pretty excited. Some of my team is going, and so I think it's going to be a really fun time. I think it'll be a great evening, and it'll be a big memory with Olivia.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, and then at some point she'll look at me during the night. She'll be like, Mom, there's no cooler person than you.
Yeah. Thank you for paying $6,000 to get us here or whatever it
So
was.
here's the thing. This is so crazy, Justin. I got our tickets at a reasonable rate because we got them on the day
Okay, good.
that they sold them
Great.
through Ticketmaster.
Oh,
when
everyone
it crashed.
Everyone at church was camped out on that webpage. Like even senior pastor Dr. Roger Patterson was buying tickets. No, he was buying
Anyway.
tickets for his family.
Right,
And
that's
so the
true.
day that the website was up, everybody
We just
had
were,
it
like,
on
trying
in the
to figure this
background
out
of
in the
their meeting.
background.
It didn't take any attention,
No.
but it was like
No
on in the background. And then like it just when it started moving, people got really excited.
So we finally got in. We bought tickets at a reasonable rate.
Yeah.
So my ticket, which I believe I got for like, I don't know, $100, is now online worth $880.
Wow, you should sell it. Make some
I
money.
want to sell it. I'm like, Olivia, what if I sold it? She's like, Mom, no, this is going to be amazing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
but that would really help pay for one of those something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It will be amazing. I will say, it sounds like Kids Stuff Ministry might be a little low energy on Sunday. Sunday
Well, we're
morning.
going Friday night.
Oh, you're going to Friday night
Yes,
show.
so we'll
you're
be
good.
able to.
You'll be
we'll be
real
pepped
well
up
rested.
by Sunday.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway,
Good.
So talk about pepped up. Let's talk to some people who knows what it means to have an incredible experience and then head back into full ministry. Is that a good transition?
I think it was pretty good.
All right. Okay, you guys. I am thrilled to introduce to you Sydney and Tim Yeager.
Wow.
Welcome, you guys.
Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, me too.
Tim's
Thank
got
you.
the good voice. Tim
Thrilled.
has been our student minister here, City Rise, Westview, Cross Point. How long?
8 years this month.
8 years this month.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
And-
I've worn many different hats, and it's been many different challenging but great seasons as well.
Well, maybe we'll get to dive into that
Sure.
now that we're on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so Sydney was actually our first guest.
It was.
She's choking up.
Cough button.
She's choking up,
The
man.
next investment.
Pause the video.
I gave her a cough button once, and she would push it opposite of what
Wait,
she
you
needed.
just have to go back and cut all this kind of stuff out. Oh my god.
Sometimes I leave it.
Oh, he'll leave this in definitely because there continue to be talking
She's
during me
tripping
just.
out.
It depends on if Jennifer's made me mad that day or not, what I take out. So
Oh, that's
My
amazing.
dignity level has dropped.
I wish you could see the things I don't leave in the show that I protect.
Oh yeah. One day
The
those
outtakes.
have
Yeah,
to
the
roll.
outtakes.
One day, maybe when you're not on
An entire video of me scratching my belly.
Probably.
or
When you retire.
Picking
That'd be
stuff out
good.
of my mouth.
retirement party, we're rolling that tape.
So welcome back, Sydney. When you
Thank
came
you.
on the show, so we were like, hey, Sydney, will you come and visit with us? Because we're trying to figure out the buttons.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure and see. And you really did come and give incredible advice. And so I guess my first question is, this is the first show. And if you guys haven't heard it, go back, listen to Sydney's show. She had a lot of great wisdom about speaking into your student, about her story. But tell us, what have you been up to for these past 100 episodes?
Yeah. Gosh. How many years has that
It's been
been?
about a year and a half. So
Okay.
are we moving it?
We
2 years?
started, I think we started in 21.
February 21.
Okay. Wow. Well, I'm still serving in the student ministry with Tim. That hasn't changed, although
And you guys are still married.
we're still
True.
married. No kids.
True.
Like
We haven't
that's
added a
new
child,
for
which is
us.
No
awesome.
more
We
kids.
didn't have a baby in that time frame. I am still working from home part-time, which I don't think I was doing on the first show, but I'm doing that now. I have a job that just allows me to be mom, which is really great, but also helps with my shopping needs and whatnot.
We all have shopping needs.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, not much has changed like drastically other than still doing student ministry. If I'm honest, I think I might have tried to retire a few times. Every time a group of girls
True
graduates, I'm
statement.
like, yeah, this is the last group for me. Like, I can't love another group as much as these girls. And I
Right.
tell Tim, like, hey, I'm done. Like, do not put me in another group. And then somehow I end up in another group. And actually, my group is graduating this year. So stay tuned for the next 100.
After retirement
Yeah.
announcement
Yes.
to see where Tim.
But I'm currently I still hang out with high school kids.
I don't know how you would like retire from ministry in your own home to your husband.
That's almost
Oh, I'm sorry, it's been a tough day, hon. So this is the last time I'm doing
It's
it.
happened more than you would think, but somehow we keep getting through it, which is
You're
nice.
struggling for people.
I mean,
to, like, go
I've
be
had those same
tortured at
thoughts
camp,
too, right?
but-
Yeah.
You know, when Olivia was a little sixth grader going to VBX for her first time, I was so nervous for her, like crying.
Sure.
Like, is she going to enjoy it there? Is it going to be as good as VBS? Is it going to? She got in the car and she's like, immediately the first thing she says is, "Mom is so much better than VBS." And I was like, "Thank you. That's good to hear."
Which at that point, was it your job or were
and
you
she
still
goes,
teaching?
"Do you know Sydney?
Oh.
She is so cool, Mom." And I'm like, and at that point, I don't think we had ever visited or knew each
No,
other.
I don't think
But Olivia
so.
was enthralled, and it really, having spouses that invest in, like Kristen with Justin and you guys, is such a big deal for these kids coming through. They get to
Right.
get to be in relationship with you. So
Yeah.
that's exciting. So
It's
I,
fun.
for one, am not for you retiring.
Yeah, I can at least hold out one more year for Olivia. to
I
graduate.
know she's
So,
going to be a
not
senior.
retiring. No one's
Not retiring. So, well, thank you for coming on today. Would
Yeah.
you have ever thought we made it to 100 episodes when we were?
Honestly, when you texted me, I was taken aback. I was like, man, they're still rolling over there. And you guys have had such an upgrade. Like, it's really cool.
I know we have all this lighting and
Yeah.
it's pretty fun.
100
It's been
episodes later.
fun. Well,
Super cool.
thank you for coming back and visiting with us, Tim. So, student ministry has doing a lot of crazy, fun, amazing things this summer.
Yes.
What have you guys got on the burner?
Yeah. So pretty much ever since we've come back from COVID, we're diving right back into everything summer, which summers we go crazy. It's very activity driven just because our students are not in school. And so they have a lot of free time and we want to maximize their free time and really get them enthusiastic about coming to the church. And then, of course, going on all sorts of different camps and mission trips that really aren't possible during the school year besides, little breaks here and there from school. So we have our typical VBX first week of the summer that, goes with VBS here at the West U campus. So we're at Cross Point, and that's all middle schoolers. And it's one of our biggest events of the year. And what makes that event really special is that our high schoolers get very excited about it too, but in service roles. And so it kind of bridges the awkward gap whenever you have a student ministry that goes from 6th to 12th grade.
For real.
And that's a very huge challenge with
Yes.
our church and our ministry is to bridge that gap and to, just try to, navigate those waters, if you will. So high schoolers get really excited about it, and it builds some relationships between high schoolers and middle schoolers, which is helpful.
And the kids love it.
It's super fun.
It
Yeah.
is
Too.
a blast. And so, well, that's exciting. And then for your high schoolers, then you guys go to camp.
Yeah. So
the next week?
Yeah. VBX ends Friday. And then we used to leave Sunday night and drive through the night, but now we wake up at like 4 a.m. on Monday and drive to Panama City, Florida for camp, which we've been going to Big Stuff Camp for really the past 7-8 years or so. And it's always one of the highlights of our high school ministry.
And have won the dance contest every year.
Every year, but
Even
now
when
they
you filled in.
and when
Yes.
I couldn't go one year because of
We were
Jonah.
all on edge.
Tim is like
Can he
the
carry the
dancer.
throne?
And then Justin won it. And I was like, I could not have been more proud.
City Rise has one. It's
It's
honestly
silly.
embarrassing now. Like, I went last year for the first time in a while, and it's embarrassing.
Last
like,
year they stopped it though.
well, yeah, that's true. But
Yeah.
it's like this guy, like, come on, like, sit down, let somebody else.
2 years ago, they
Time
were
to
like,
wiggle.
"Oh, you again," and that's when it was like, "I need to stop doing this."
But the kids will not let Tim not.
And
like,
then
it's like
last
a
summer,
thing.
it was a handshake contest, which was
Oh,
like,
that was weird.
it
Do you
just-
think
yeah.
they changed it to that because they're like, well, we got that one youth visitor.
I hope not. I
There's
really,
one
that's a really
guy
Every
embarrassing.
year, he's like a really good dancer.
Really embarrassing, honestly.
He takes like credit hours
He
in the
practices
off time.
all year long for that one.
He started his
moment.
own dance troupe.
It's become a thing, and it's. I mean, like literally, as I think about it now, I kind of cringe a little bit, but like in the moment, it just seems like such the right thing to do
When
because all the
everyone's
students
chanting
are
your
like
name.
so excited about it. So like right now, when I think
Sure.
about it, I'm like,
I'm
but like in the
definitely not doing
moment,
that.
it just makes sense. So that's part of it. We'll see what happens this year if it's handshake or dance. But anyways, it's just anytime you can take students outside of the Houston bubble, outside their home bubble, outside their family life, and
Outside
get
their
them
phone
away.
bubble.
Yeah. And anytime, you can just get them away and just really focus on worship and community and, eating meals together and having small group together. I mean, there's just so much fruit that comes from that. And so whether it's in Florida or somewhere else, just getting them away from normal routine and the busyness of life and full of distractions, and just being able to focus, even if it is for 3 days or 4 days, always fruitful.
So I don't know how you guys come back from a trip. So towards the middle of summer, we can't even make eye contact with the student ministry team because you guys are so running so hard. We're just like, it's so much on you guys.
Yeah.
How do you guys come back from these trips? Because Sydney, you're coming too. Is it hard to get back into life?
Yeah. And I, as the older our own kids get, it has become harder in a different way. It used to be easier to leave them because they were babies and they didn't know I was gone. But now our girls are in big kids school where, you can't miss so many days of school. And so his time to be busy is their time home and off. And so honestly, we've kind of just started bringing them to as much as we can. And that has been a whole different kind of fun. And kind of, I think it kind of spiced up student ministry again for us of my kids, they really love this. They get to go serve with their babysitters, or I don't know, we think it's really important for high school kids to see hey, having kids doesn't stop you from doing ministry, or, you can do this. We're a family. We're all in it all together. But yeah, it is hard sometimes to get off a bus when you've been with 16-year-olds all week and then go back and work in the insurance company.
Charlotte can't, she can calendar the days now. She's they've been gone this many days,
yes.
this many hours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think it's amazing that you guys are living life that way and showing and teaching through that. So after camp, you come back and then you leave again. Is it the mission trip?
Yeah. So after Big Stuff Camp for high schoolers, we have about 2 weeks that finish the month of July. And then the first 2 weeks of the month of June. Then the first 2 weeks of the month of July, we're in Belize. And so we have this international mission partner in Belize named Pastor Pedro. And this will be our 4th summer to go.
Wow.
And it originally kind of grew from doing a VBS, a Vacation Bible School, at his church in Belize. And it just is taken off from there. And it's something that we've always had a wait list of students that have wanted to sign up for. And that always just really drove me crazy, that we had students that wanted to go experience this and couldn't because we didn't have spots for them. And then birthed a second week right after that. That is a sports camp. So same type of thing, but just kind of a different element in how to love and lead kids in the village in Belize. So those are our 2 kind of serving missional opportunities, and it's international, but it's 2 hours away, so it's not that bad to get to. And then also they speak English, which is the only Central American country to be able to speak English. And so that helps a lot, just with the relational connection between our students and the kids in the village.
Too, VBS, we do, we have the missions giving, and our kids compete to raise money for missions. And this is the church. This is the people that we send this offering to every year. And it's kind of neat that the kids get to hear about your trip and what's happening, and then they get to invest in that.
Yeah,
so
I'll say
really
this
cool.
before this church was already really organized. I went on this trip once, but they were already very organized. They just did not have the resources.
Yeah.
So before for VBS, for the craft time, they would just have one adult make the craft and then show them this is the craft. So they have 80, 90 kids just watching a craft being made. And so our church, what you're doing is raising the money to support, allows every kid to take home. It's just stuff like that they didn't need our organization because they really were passionate about ministering to their community. They just needed a leg up. And that was what our church family has been able to do. And then also the kids from our church can experience that as just a huge another layer of it that they couldn't replicate without us. But it's just neat to see little things like that we take for granted, where every kid gets 70 crafts every Sunday. I mean, y'all hand me a pile of stuff every time I pick up my kids from church, and these kids at FBS and Belize, they don't ever get that. So it's just neat that
We've had a lot of comments about that too. But I can't imagine 90 kids watching a craft example.
And then
they might get to touch it. They might get to hold it for a little bit, but then they got to immediately hand it to their neighbor. And when Pedro talks about that, he literally can't mention that without getting choked up. That's how much it meant to him and his people. just a daily craft, which is like something
So
we take
simple to
fully
us.
advantage of. Yeah.
Right. And a little
Yeah.
for granted.
Yeah. And I'll
Yeah.
say if you're
That's-
interested in joining any of these events, if you go to cityrise.org/students, information, registration links, all that stuff is there. You can stay in the loop on that. And I do have a question. Spring retreat is this weekend. Is
Yeah.
it too late to sign up if this goes out tomorrow?
If this goes out tomorrow, you have until midnight.
Okay.
Wednesday night, midnight.
Okay.
Spring retreats.
Get on
And
that.
if you don't hear this until Thursday, just email me and we can maybe make it work.
So
I've
then,
never known Tim to say no to anybody. I don't know.
I
You
don't.
will
I
find
am
a place.
last minute.
unless it is like a hard stop, like camp, mission trip, they'll figure out a way.
Yeah,
So
I'm bad at that.
then you're not done.
No.
Then you have middle school camp.
Then middle school camp.
And you guys are doing something different this year.
We are. So, like that exhaustion that you hinted at, we have been running our own camp in previous summers for middle school, and that just got too difficult. And there's people out there that focus on running awesome camps. And
Right.
I don't know why we were trying to do it ourselves, because they can do it way better than us, especially when we're running on half a tank. And so we're joining Student Life, which is, in the faith-based, teenage, even kids ministry world. They're a very well-known organization that has many different camp-like opportunities here in Texas. So they're not too far away. And so we'll be joining with, a handful of other churches at this camp. And they take care of everything. That way our leaders and myself can just kind of focus on the relational ministry and the discipleship moments with our kids.
We're going to the same, we're doing Student Life
Yeah.
for kids.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
So
That's exciting.
it's a great experience for the
For sure.
kids. And we too are also, you can still register for Kid Camp, incoming 3rd through incoming 6th. And your Student Life kids are incoming 7th
to-
through
Incoming ninth.
incoming 9th. So lots of camp.
Yeah.
And we have camp options
All
for
summer.
Everybody.
everybody.
Infant to high school.
And then you guys finally get to like drop dead.
Yeah, the month of
Yeah.
August is one of my slower months of the year, which is exciting.
Finally.
So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Ooh, and that's when you can't even
Recharge.
recognize your office. It's just like piled with stuff.
Boxes,
Maybe that's just mine,
passports.
but it's piled up with so much stuff.
Yeah. passport
So
copies.
I think that's amazing. You guys came back from Ecuador this time, and that's a mission trip you actually take over spring break, and it's with your seniors. Sydney, did you get to go too this year? I think you did, right?
I did. So the girls that I lead are seniors, so I went with them.
Oh my goodness, this is so good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is this you've been before on this
I
trip,
have,
right?
yeah.
So do you guys just love this, and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, Ecuador. Obviously, I love trips. Anywhere you go are amazing, right? Serving anywhere, whether you're serving in Ecuador, Belize, or serving down the street, like serving is just an amazing opportunity wherever you are. Ecuador just there's something special about Ecuador. And for me personally, I went to Ecuador once with students and Tim, and then I went once by myself, which I don't know why I did that. Not totally by myself, but on a team of adults from Alabama, and then 3 of us from Houston went to Ecuador. And man, like my life was just, I don't know, changed in a sweet way there that trip. And I love Kati, our partner there. She's one of my really, really good friends. And so going to Ecuador is really just selfishly, it's fun for me because I get to spend time with Kati and be there. But it's really, really special because it's just seniors. And what you're doing is, it's just something that it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And we're going into these extremely remote villages who have hardly even had an outsider come to them because they're so remote. And we're washing the feet of the children and giving them a new pair of boots. And what's really cool, like that is cool in itself and sharing the gospel, but we're the first point of contact because Kati will just tell these villages, hey, I have a group. Can we come to the school? And they're going to provide all the kids in the village with shoes. So of course they're very open to that. Well, what they don't know is she's going to continue a relationship. And then we're kind of like the entry point for her to get into these villages and then keep doing ministry. And the end goal is to have a church there. And it's really cool. It's just it's not something that we just go do and then come back and we're like, oh, that was fun. It happened. And that's honestly the life of this church is I think all of our mission partners, there's a relationship there and it's just us, like Justin said, giving them more resources. Like they don't need us. God doesn't need us. But we get to go like be an entry point for her to get into these villages long term.
That's cool. And you
Yeah.
guys saw just an amazing, with your seniors, they bonded during this experience.
Yeah.
And you guys took a big group this year.
Yeah, this was a cool senior class. It was strong. And like Sydney said, it really is unique because you just can't, like, this time period of their life, like 2 months out of graduating high school and then moving on to whatever's next, is such a unique time period in all of our lives. And so it's just really a unique trip, a unique opportunity, a unique moment in their life. And we've just seen so much fruit come from these moments together, because we have all these, 7 years in student ministry perfectly, if they were to stay from 6th grade to this moment. And you have all these discipleship, moments with them and all these conversations. And it kind of leads up to this one moment where they get to practice sharing the gospel literally like close to 200 times a person.
Wow.
And, you hear the Sermon on the Mount, don't just be hearers of the word, but be doers of the word. And sometimes it's very easy just to live our lives comfortably here in Houston and just be hearers of the word constantly and just be spoon fed at church and just be spoon fed on Wednesday nights and not really do anything about it. But you sign up for this trip, like, it's not a whole lot of hearing. It's almost all doing. And like anything with practice, it becomes more comfortable. And then you realize, like, when a kid hugs you or a kid breaks down and wants to pray with you, and you just see God use you, or whatever the case may be. And we have many stories through that, but just whenever you start doing and just being, reaping the benefits of practicing, sharing the gospel, it goes crazy. And then of course seeing Kati and elevating her just with more hands, more power, more resources, and watching people want to start churches in these villages. It's an unreal opportunity.
That's really
Man, that's exciting. I think that,
Are you going with Olivia next year?
no, I think Andy,
Ask her.
I think
You should ask. Don't assume.
Yes.
Ask her.
I think, no, I think if either of us, and of course, Tim and I haven't talked about this, so it's kind of weird to bring it up in the
That's
show.
great
but
advice, though.
I think if
Don't assume,
Andy,
ask.
I think Andy would go. If either of us go, Andy would go. But we're not sure about that. But we want Olivia to go. We've got to figure this out.
I'm sure Olivia will go. I'm just asking if one of y'all would
Yeah.
tag along.
And Justin asked that because sometimes our parents go on the trip, and honestly, it's something that I highly encourage. I know it's always a unique kind of thing for, father, son, or mother, daughter, or whatever to talk through. But we've seen a lot of beautiful relationships happen in serving together through that unique moment in that child's life. And so I encourage it, whether it's you or Andy, we'll see. But
I know. I think, I've been on a couple with her.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be a great time with her and Andy before,
Sure.
shoot heads out.
Yeah.
We gotta
Crazy.
take a break in the show. Okay. I wanted to talk to you guys real quick before we sort of wrap up and have the final question. Thinking about parents that are listening, that are kind of trying to figure out how to lead their students, how to continue to encourage them in their walk. If you had to write a book, both of you are like, oh. If you had to write a book and it had a title that was like your best advice, like if I could just tell you this, what would it be for your students?
For the students or for the
your
parents?
as a parent with
with
teenagers?
your child.
with teenagers.
Oh, okay.
If you're writing a book,
Yeah. We're not there yet. So this is,
we need that book.
Yeah.
Our kids are toddlers.
That's one of the fun things about student ministry is you get parents just really like longing for insight and advice on parenting teenagers. And as a youth pastor, you try your best, and you do have some perspective they don't, because you see a lot of teenagers. So it's not like you're irrelevant to the conversation, but it is just interesting when, as a young youth pastor, and you've got kids that are less than 8 years old, they're asking like, well, how do you, I'm like, I can tell you what I think. I was like, I say, I don't know what it's like to have a real life living, breathing teenager in my life. So, but you do offer perspective that they don't get elsewhere. So I think it's important to have that conversation, but you kind of have to have that in mind when you're offering that as a student pastor. Like, well, this is what I would say, from a student pastor perspective.
And even if there needs to be 2 titles on your book, if you're like caught between,
I don't know
like
that we'd have the same answer.
Yeah, I mean, this is totally stealing from a book that I'm currently reading, but it's called The Intentional Father. And it's by a guy named John Tyson. And he gives you this exercise. A lot of people, there's like this healthy exercise of thinking like you're attending your own funeral, and what do you want people to say about you? And then what can you start doing so that people do say that about you?
That's a good perspective.
So he has the perspective, okay, my 7-year-old is now 18 and she's moving off to college. What do I want to be true of her? And what can I start doing with her now that helps her get to that point where she, encompasses the qualities or the characteristics that I want from her. And I was just like, cool, like what a crazy thing to think about. And I think, it's never too late to think that because, obviously time is always ticking. And the transitional point in our culture is 18 for whatever's next post high school. And that's sooner for some and not so soon for others, but we'll be here. And so it's like thinking, how do I help be the primary disciple maker of my child? Because that is the role of mom and dad. Sometimes the viewpoint of student ministry gets confused because that's not my job. My job is to partner with mom and dad and be a secondary adult, right? As Moses said, it takes a village. It takes secondary adults. And that's my story as well. I had a basketball coach that really just spoke life into me. And he was saying the same things that my dad was. Like at their core, they were saying the same things. But since it wasn't my dad, it just hit on my ears totally differently. And so my goal is to be that secondary person, to be able to speak life into these kids and to be just consistent and show up. And you never know when that moment comes where they're like, hey, Tim, I need to talk. And when those moments happen, it's like, why did this just now happen? Like, it's been 7 years. Why didn't you speak up earlier? Right. But like those moments can happen. But like mom and dad, I mean, it's their job to disciple their kids. So like think about what you want them to be, what you want to be true of them whenever they graduate high school. And like, okay, what can I do now to help them get there? And so like, I want them to, be able to read scripture on their own. When they move away from college, I know that they aren't going to be intimidated by the word of God and not know how to read it. Okay. Well, how can I help my daughter, my son get to that point? And what can I do, or what can I set up in their life that helps them get to that point? That's just an example, but
that's great.
Things like that.
I really love that. That's really great. Mm-hmm. Sydney?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. I mean, my story is similar to Tim's, to where I had a Young Life leader. Young Life is a parachurch organization that's with high school students. And same thing, she was saying all the same things that my mom and dad were saying. The same, if I were to come to her and my mom with the same issue, the advice would probably be the same. But because she wasn't mom, and not that I didn't have a good relationship with my mom, it just was, I don't know, when you're a 16-year-old girl, it's like, it's coming from, she was probably my age at the time. So early 30s, young mom. And I just thought she was super cool. I wanted to be like her. I still want to be like Jody when I grew up. And so, yeah, like Tim said, I know for my own kids, like, man, the more adults that love Jesus surrounding and loving my kids, the better. And like not getting my feelings hurt if Charlotte would rather go talk to Olivia, about coming to know Jesus than me. Because I think selfishly as her mom, I would want to be like, oh no, like I want that moment with you. But I just think back like to my own life of, man, like I just want my kids to be and put into positions where there's just tons of adults who love Jesus, loving them. And I think that's what's cool about student ministry. I think our church, our volunteer leaders are amazing. Like they're not just showing up at DG on Wednesday night. I mean, they're showing up at coffee shops with them and going to their soccer games and dance competitions and just, meeting high school students where they're at and just, taking each step with them. And I think, when my girls are in high school, I would hope that I would kind of have I hope, and it might be hard for us, but to have the same mindset about my own kids that I have about our kids in our ministry, like that would be my goal. But I know like Justin said, I don't have a breathing teenager in my house calling me mom yet. So that's probably going to be hard to do. I don't know. So just like Tim said, being intentional and like asking the hard questions. I'm always kind of surprised by my senior girls. And I'm like, well, like, has anyone asked you this? And they're like, no, like we just like say my day's good at school and then go to my room. And that's like a two-way street. Like I tell my senior girls, like ask your mom how her day was, like start conversations. And I know high school mom and high school guy, like parent relationships can be interesting, but I don't know. Like I think just being willing to go to the hard places with your high schoolers and being able to point them to other people if you need to.
That's really good. It's funny that you say it's hard to go to the hard places. Like the other night I heard myself say, so is this a good time to maybe talk to you about one of your grades? And I realized I've completely lost control. The fact that I would say, what is happening in this class? I'm was like, hey, would this be a good time to maybe just like broach the subject of like this class? Like,
and like Justin said, we have no idea because we don't have that in our home.
We're still trying to potty train.
But we do recognize how challenging it is, right? And so I think what we see is when there's more trusted, Jesus-loving adults around children, that has a positive influence and impact in their life.
And I think that I love hearing your stories about, that's one of the things that I'm just so thankful to you guys for, because you do bring so many adults into their lives and have so many people investing in the kids with our church, that there's a safety and you feel like you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that, that I just love about what you guys do.
Let's talk about that. If you're listening and you don't currently serve at our church, or you go to a different church, but especially for our church, how would someone get involved? What are the roles that someone could play in the student ministry? If you could, give a pitch right now to people listening.
Thank you for that. Just beautiful.
So former student pastor constantly trying to get volunteers.
No, it's honestly really hard. And it's been the most challenging aspect of ministry post-COVID has been our volunteers took a huge hit. And so, we try to set you up for success with whatever aspect of life that you are currently living in. And so there's like opportunities that are, what I would say easy, of just like serving food and just like being there for a chunk of the programming and just, opening a door or helping with check-in or serving food. But again, you're just another smiling face that you never know if a student will connect with you for some reason, or if a student connects, wants to hang out in the kitchen for some reason, but like you're there and you get to engage. So there's like little things like that. But then of course it goes to as big as, leading a discipleship group, leading a middle school small group. And so there's many different opportunities, and we try to set you up for success based on your stage of life and your availability and how much limitations you have as a young parent with young kids or work or whatever. And so many different opportunities, but all of them are vital to our mission. And so if you have any ounce of burden or any ounce of like, I do think I need to be a consistent Jesus loving adult to a group of teenagers and just see what God does through that. Please just email me or grab me on Sunday or whatever. Please just talk to me. And we'll find a place for you.
Yeah. Especially I think that people feel a little intimidated sometimes. Yeah. And I think what's great is just go ahead and find a place and begin. Especially if your child doesn't have a restraining order against you, and they will not dissolve.
High school kids too. Like I think a lot of people are scared of high school kids. Like, oh, I could never do what you guys do, and they're like an acquired taste. Like even if you think that, it's like, but once you start hanging out with them, you're like. Sometimes I have to check myself. Like I need to have more adult friends than high school friends. But I love being with my high school girls. Like I love when they're at my house. I love getting tea house with them. I love going on trips with them. And my friend Jess and we lead together, and we've kind of told him like, sorry, we're a package deal now. Cause it's fun for us to get to, have like link arms and leave DG and be like, are you good? I'm good. That was a lot, but we're good. Right.
That was a lot.
And we have adults, like you're not going to be alone. We're not going to throw you to the wolves. Like there's other adults who you get to link arms with, and that becomes a community as well.
I was about to say, I think what people don't realize is that it's like for your blessing to find a place to serve. Like,
yes,
the reason Sydney and I's marriage works is because it's built around a calling, and our calling is to lead and love teenagers. And our marriage like thrives and is best after trips or within trips or in these moments together, because we're serving together. And that's how God created man and wife to be, to work the garden together. Like there's this calling that's bigger than ourselves. And so not only could you experience that like with your spouse, if you shared that same burden or that same call, but also with a community of friends like you have with your friends, and even some of the, the male adults that I've now connected with through serving alongside over the years. Like there's beautiful friendships that can grow from it, but also can help relationships as well.
Yeah. And I'll say this too. When I was in student ministry, the biggest pushback I got from people volunteering was they'd say there's like a stereotypical youth worker that's like young and cool and fun and energetic and outgoing and like can run a room. And they're like, that's not me. I'm this old, or I'm introverted or whatever. And I always tell them like, hey, listen, every single student can benefit from a cool older brother or sister they never had, and a great second mom or dad, or a great second grandma or granddad. Like there is no age limit on it, because a child needs all of that. They They need a cool older sister. They need a great second dad. Like they need all that. And so
Cool aunt.
a cool aunt, yes, all those things in the middle. You can't discount yourself because of your age or your personality in student ministry, because the person you are, there's 15 kids in the group just like you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's 15 introverts that would connect with you instantly.
Yeah.
There's people without dads that are dying for a dad figure that need a 45, 56-year-old guy in that room. Like they need that. So don't discount yourself because of your age, your personality. Like if you're feeling God tugging your heart right now, this is the Holy Spirit. Like you need to figure it out.
100%. 100%.
So at the end of every show, we do a little get to know you question. This one today is, if you could go back into your teenage years, involved in church, or if you remember activities you used to do with student ministry, or what would be one experience or one event that you would go back and if you could go back and experience that again, you would do that? I already have my answer. So I can go first because we usually go first so that you guys aren't put on the spot.
Sure.
Right.
That's kind. You should
Do you
go
have
for it.
your?
Yeah.
No, I
That's
literally
fine.
heard this question 3 seconds ago.
You've been dwelling on this question all night.
That's
I think
that's
I'm ready,
very
though.
generous.
Whatever.
All right, Tim.
Yeah. So my life was changed on international missions. It was a summer in Peru that I got to experience. And it was so pivotal and just redirected my life, right? Like just, when you think about the word repentance, like it's to literally turn around and go a different direction. And that's what happened through my experience there. And if I could go back and I'm sure there's so many moments that I've already forgot because we're very forgetful people. That's why in biblical times, they made altars of remembrance constantly to remember what God did and his faithfulness in that moment. And I remember the big things because I think about them often, but if I could just go and relive that. And so just really, that's why we're big on international missions, because something happens when you go and serve, when you go see how big God is, when you go see different countries and different cultures and how they do church and how they, how they are working and growing in their discipleship to Jesus. And it's just a beautiful picture of the kingdom of God. And so I'd go back to that specific trip.
That's good.
Jennifer, you go.
For me, our youth group went to a camp. It's called Camp Lee every summer. And it was in the middle of the mountains of Alabama. And okay, this is going to sound so weird, but when you were walking in worship and you were and I remember the feeling that would come over you, and it was like being pulled out of stress, and you're here with all of these peers that are really connected and growing in Christ. And there was just this, and I know we kind of call it a spiritual high, but as we get to adulthood, we find peace in Christ and joy. But to have that electric sense of being called and connected to Christ that was so powerful, we call it the last night at camp, when people are pouring their lives out and connecting with each other. And it's just this powerful community moment. And I remember telling my youth minister, I'm like, I'm so sad to come back home. I'm so sad to go back because I don't talk to God all year. Right. And he's like, God is he's available to you. But to go back to a day or two of that camp when you were just a student and it was very raw and real. And anyway, before we kind of grew up.
Sure.
I think that'd be cool.
If I'm going to experience something again, I'm going to want to do it better. What I'm saying? So my head doesn't go to, that was so great, I want to experience it again. It's I wish I would have done this differently. And
okay.
I worked at a youth camp before I went to a youth camp as a participant.
Really?
So my parents were divorced. And so every other weekend and Wednesday nights, I was with my dad. So getting involved in a youth group was darn near impossible because Wednesday nights I could never go. And then every other weekend you're like a halftime kid and you feel like a loser because everybody knows each other. And so getting plugged in is really hard. So I didn't go on student trips. I didn't go to church regularly in high school. And I'm just looking back on all I missed because when I became a student pastor, I volunteered in college at the Great Youth Ministry. And I was like, oh, wow, look at what I missed out on. What could I have been a part of? And I would have been more intentional about getting my parents to help me figure this out. It's hey, I know the court says I got to see on Wednesday. Can we do Thursday night? Like, how dumb? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Please.
like can we just swap this around? Like, I just wasn't intent because I didn't know what I was missing out on.
Sure.
So if I could go back to high school, I'd be more intentional. Like, hey, how can we work out our schedule where I can get involved in a youth group? Because I missed out on all the great things we're talking about in student ministry. I experienced only as an adult. I never
Justin?
experienced as like a teenager.
Aw.
So it's something that I would go back and do again.
So I'm sorry, I was kind of I shaded you at the beginning of that.
You thought it was going to be like,
I feel bad about that all day.
All right.
All right.
Mine kind of similar to Justin. I was a rebellious teenager, so a lot of mine, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go back into those years. But when I grew up going to church, we just never went to like a super traditional church that had a big student ministry. We were often at church plants or different, smaller things where we were like, I feel like the only high school kids. So my first taste of youth group was honestly when I married Tim in Dallas, and we went, and it was a huge church, and I was like, whoa, this is a youth group. This is crazy. Or like going to camp. But I did go to Young Life Camp as a high schooler. And that's probably, I would go back and do that over and over again that was like my one experience as a teenager of going away unplugged with Jody, my Young Life leader. And Young Life camps are beautiful. They're always in beautiful parts of the country. And it's just, it was like super life-changing experience. So
That's cool.
Back to Windy Gap.
Well, man, thank you guys for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's been so good to hear everything going on with you and what's coming up and what God's doing. And we just appreciate you coming.
Yeah, if you enjoyed the show, we'd love for you to share this with somebody. Send the link, rate, review, subscribe. Also, if you listen to this podcast and you want to watch us talk to each other, the link of our YouTube playlist of our shows is in the description. I'm also going to link the webpage for students and give you some ways to connect with Tim if you want to get involved, either by volunteering or getting your own students involved. So that will all be in the description.
It'll be a good reminder to you all not to wear a horizontally white striped shirt on film. Anyway, we hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing podcast. I ran out of breath. Can I do that again with breath?
Sure.
With air. All right. Thank you guys again. We hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing podcast.
You did it.
You're going to keep it all in there, aren't you?
Yeah.
He always does. And anyway.